Welcome back, everyone, to the afternoon session of our second day. And I would like to hand over to David Graham. David has been a long-time friend and colleague and supporter of our Center for Wireless Communications and specifically our smart transportation programs. He's also the Chief Innovation Officer at City of Carlsbad and has been instrumental in many ways for mobility programs and other smart city programs throughout County of San Diego and beyond. It's great to have David chair the session on connected and autonomous mobility. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Sujit, Dr. Day. It is a real pleasure to be here with all of you. Great content so far, and this is always such a fascinating time and really interesting information. And I always learn a lot about it, so I really appreciate that. You know, when we begin to think about these two things that seem to have been talked about quite a lot, 5G and also autonomous mobility, the future really has seemed quite bright. And I think to some extent, there are lots of questions around the applications and what can occur in both 5G and autonomous mobility, but then also how soon, how quickly things will come about. We obviously have seen many pilots that have been done in and around this space. Now, as we see the deployment of 5G, knowing that one of the most fundamental things that we should care about in our urban areas is mobility. When we begin to think about addressing issues such as climate change, urban congestion, really communication and our ability to get around and alternative modes of transportation are fundamental, not just to the health of our cities, the health of our communities, but the health of our planet. And here, this convergence of two technologies is becoming a fascinating space in which what once was science fiction is becoming science fact. And so I'm very excited to be here with Arvin Singh, the Managing Director of Connected Solutions for Verizon. I've had the opportunity over many years to work with Verizon, and they have done some incredible thinking and also deployments in this space. And I know Arvin has been a sought-after speaker in this space and has done quite a lot with the company over a number of years. So really looking forward to hearing from him. He's the Managing Director of Connected Solutions, leading a national team of wireless enterprise architects and engineers within the Verizon Business Group. I believe it's been about 2 decades he brings of experience in wireless technology and having served in many different roles. And actually has worked quite a bit with folks in both the public and private sector. And so we appreciate that space. We appreciate when our private sector leaders are focused on how to bring technology to improve and create the communities of the future. I know his team is responsible for delivering Verizon's technology strategy and also the vision to their enterprise clients. He has a master's in business administration from Pepperdine University, a gorgeous campus, almost as pretty as Point Loma Nazarene, which is where I went. The two, I think, rival the West Coast for the two most beautiful campuses. And, I always appreciate the fundamentals that are in the bio, but I also like to see how people see themselves. And so where else do you go figure that out but LinkedIn? So I didn't Twitter stalk Arvin. I don't even know that he has a Twitter account, but he on his LinkedIn says he's a people-centric visionary leader, a tech enthusiast, and a startup advisor. Also sounds like from his posts, he's been a star speaker in places like with CTIA and many others in this business. So very excited to hear from Arvin on 5G and the path to autonomous mobility. Take it away, Arvin.
David, thank you for that generous introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. Great to have this privilege to speak with all of you. And thank you, Dr. Day, particularly you and the Center for Wireless Research for this phenomenal opportunity. Again, my pleasure to be here to talk about 5G and the path to autonomous mobility. And I just want to make sure the slides is being shared. And Deshaun, if you could cue that up. Thank you. So look, again, I've been with Verizon for a little over 2 decades, and it's been a fascinating journey. As you look at the generational change in wireless technology from 1G all the way to 5G, really truly transformative possibilities that we're looking to usher with 5G. Look, it's more than just a G, right? And this audience and the constituents in this forum know it better than most. So my goal today isn't to go into the fundamentals of this, but on the first slide, as we pull it up, really, it's a platform to reinvent and reimagine business, a platform for possibilities. And the goal is to make sure that the industry is pursuing the full potential of 5G, right? All of you know about the enhanced mobile broadband, ultra reliable, low latency communications, massive IoT and whatnot. So I won't go into that, but in order to realize the full potential of 5G, it's super important that the investments in key technology enablers are in place in terms of massive fiber investments, in terms of robust spectrum strategy, virtualizing networks and really enabling software-defined networks, and decades worth of investments, quite frankly. A lot of what's being done has been in the making for a number of years. And if we could advance to the first slide, please. So look, a lot of what you see on this slide, again, I've touched on it briefly, but I'll just say this. To bring the overall ecosystem together and to unlock the transformative possibilities of 5G will require many of us, many constituents, thought leaders, innovators, academia, and all coming together in a synergistic way, really forming private-public partnerships to accelerate, test and validate the possibilities that we're seeking. The need for massive data fusion, quite frankly, the ability to aggregate, mine, and gain insights that can essentially aid in safely enabling some of these possibilities and elevating the human experience and changing the society around us. So data unification will be a key ingredient on how we unpack a lot of what's been examined. So I'll touch on this a bit more further into the slide. So let me just advance to the next slide, please. As we think about the opportunity to reimagine and reinvent the future, technologies are only successful if we're applying it to solve real-world problems. This is particularly an area that Verizon is super passionate and excited about. In today's society, we're facing real challenges, right? As you think about urbanization, the deaths on the road today, over 40,000 deaths with traffic incidents on U.S. roadways on a yearly basis, over 2 million serious injuries due to traffic incidents, and good 94% plus of those are human-related errors. So there's absolutely a room in society for the acceleration of some of the vision and some of the thought leadership that we're talking to. But as you think about digitalization, climate change, social inclusion, and the sustainable future we're looking to create, big role of ubiquitous network connectivity that's pervasive in our lives in many, many facets, right? I mean, to give you context, 4G LTE network we have running today, the LTE Advanced network, has been open for business for a little over 10 years. It reaches about 2.68 million square miles of coverage across the US. That's reaching a little over 322 million Americans. In context to that, 5G ultra wideband, which I'll get into, our ultra wideband and our 5G nationwide services, we made some recent announcements today. This is work we've been undertaking for a little over 5 years now, 5 to 7 years, quite frankly. And there's an incredible opportunity and responsibility to bring this next generation of technologies at scale. And that is exactly what we're on the mission to do. As we think about the collaborations with, again, the thought leaders, the experts in this forum that participate in the industry, really a lot of different set of unique requirements that we're hearing about. From just speaking from an OEM's perspective, the automakers and whatnot, connected autonomous vehicle development is high on their priority radar. The ability to be able to serve with reliable, low latency and secure connectivity is paramount, right? And this notion of performance assurance, things like service level agreements, was not viable in the previous generation of wireless network infrastructure. With 5G promising 5 nines reliability over time, those things are now in the cards on how we enable, how we slice the network to serve the different use cases in a very meaningful way. So electrification, sustainability, again, safer society, as we look at the ecosystem of micro-mobility services, last mile logistics delivery, things like that, needless to say, there's revenue cannibalization pressures that auto industry is facing. So opportunities for monetization, opportunities to create next generation of connected autonomous mobility future, next gen of infotainment and experiences are all super high on the radar of the auto industry and the thought leaders in the ecosystem. I'll take the next slide, please. So again, as you think about all that's been in the making, we announced our ambitions for 5G back in 2015, but really the journey began almost 7 years or so ago, where we've been transforming the ins and outs of our network and simplifying and modernizing the network to truly be able to usher in the next generation of 5G and edge innovations. And that is what allows us to really deploy a network to deliver predictable excellence at scale. So our nationwide 5G network, we announced this a couple of weeks back. It's reaching over 200 million people across 1,800 cities. We did that with a flip of a switch using this technology concept of dynamic spectrum sharing, where we're broadcasting 4G and 5G signal in the same low and mid-band spectrum. Our ultra-wideband 5G network, where we're using high millimeter wave bands in 28 gigahertz and 39 gigahertz bands. We've done tremendous testing on that since the early onsets of 2015 up to now. But that network is live and running in 55 cities across the US with intentions to get to 60 cities and beyond before the end of the year, along with launching other services like 5G broadband to the home in 12 cities and really the ecosystem, right? Enablement of mobile devices. So as I think about 5G network and the possibilities, the momentum behind 5G is significant, right? The early days, 10 plus years ago, 4G LTE, there was like 3 or 4 operators globally that were marching towards LTE when we first announced aspirations for 4G LTE. With 5G at the end of last year, there were over 30 operators across the globe with commercial 5G networks. And that is tremendous economies of scale and momentum behind 5G. So as you think about the ecosystem and rapid enhancements and acceleration and cost evolution over time, it's super promising. Look, mobile edge compute or multi-access edge compute as well is a key ingredient here in this future, right? This is something where we forge game-changing partnerships with the likes of Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure for private MEC strategy. It's really bringing cloud compute capabilities near the far edge of our network. Being able to serve use cases and bring the cloud and processing and storage to closer to the end user, to the mobility endpoint. It's truly remarkable. This is what's going to allow us to serve use cases and create a whole new set of possibilities that was beyond the reach from a wireless network standpoint. As you think about this and the 5G Future Forum that we formed, we're trying to partner with global operators and thought leaders to accelerate the edge adoption, the edge specifications, and the experience we create on the edge. So it's seamless as the ecosystem, as the industry, as OEMs look at global deployments of their endpoints and mobility vision. But the opportunity here is to change everything, quite frankly, right? Change how we get things done, change how we move around in society, and how we choose to live and conduct business, which is truly remarkable. Next slide, please. So look, to do this and to get it right, it's not just Verizon or a few companies out there, right? To accelerate and create an autonomous mobility future requires really close collaboration and synergistic approaches and partnerships with many of the thought leaders and constituents in this forum, academia, public sector, private sector, and the ecosystem providers, the technology providers to come together in enabling, testing, validating a variety of use cases to stitch the vision, to create the data unification platforms, to be able to create an autonomous mobility future. Ultimately, our 5G lab teams have spent several years now in creating real-life proving grounds where we're testing with many of the experts that have participated in this forum that are on the calls today in really testing and validating some of this fascinating vision. And again, at Verizon, we're talking about the 8 currencies of 5G to fully unlock and enable the possibilities of true 5G experience. Now, not all of it will come on day one, but for us to be able to launch the different waves of innovation of 5G and edge, we need to be able to test and validate now. So we're open for business to do this in lab environments, in real life proving grounds out there, and we're running close partnerships in testing vehicle to X use cases, the vulnerable road user scenarios, and many other potential areas that are high on the radars of the auto industry, of the thought leaders, but things that we can do the work in co-innovating, co-creating, and jointly building and shaping the future we want to deliver to enable this autonomous mobility future. So thank you, David. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Arvin. So I'm interested in this. You know, there's been a lot of hype around 5G, and now we're seeing it becoming a reality. How do you think it can be a game changer, really empowering autonomous mobility?
Yeah, I think a couple of things about 5G. And again, I did a summary view of this without getting into too much of the details given the interest of time. But when you think about the previous Gs, right, 3G, 4G, anything else, there's really 1 or 2 currencies we were looking at: speed and latency, and both of which wasn't designed for this autonomous capabilities that we're looking to, right? So within 5G, as you think about massive capacities in the radio access network, massive fiber deployments, the speeds that are super promising, and then this aspect of ultra reliable, low latency communications, reliability of 5 nines, right? This is something that was non-existent in previous generation networks. And then the pervasiveness of these deployments. The other angle to this, David, that's really promising is the miniaturization of networks, where we can build purpose-built networks. As you think about automakers, manufacturing facilities, private dedicated wireless networks, private edge platforms, there's a lot of things that can be done in controlled environments that are sort of live, but within the 4 walls or within a controlled domain area to kind of test, validate, and start to bring in different waves of innovation. So a lot of this previously wasn't possible, right? And again, the intent is not to replace the 4G networks with 5G, at least not today, right? The goal is that network that's ubiquitous, reaching 2.68 million square miles today, to get to that with 5G will take some time. Now, the nationwide network is super promising. We're serving over 200 million people already, or reaching 200 million people. But ultra-wideband 5G is a multi-year build-out, and it would require the right kind of use cases so that the economic viability is promising, right? Because it's a significant investment. There's billions of dollars of investments that need to be utilized in a meaningful way.
Yeah. So it's always good to have a stretch goal, and obviously, you know, Verizon is achieving its stretch goal in and around 5G, and I'm just super excited to see what that ends up looking like down the road. So imagine you're speaking at this forum at its 30th anniversary. It just celebrated its 25th anniversary. What does the world look like, and what are you telling us about at that point in time?
Yeah, great question, David. Look, fast forward 5 years from today. I am, along with many of the thought leaders in this forum, I'm super optimistic about what the future would hold. And truly, we're partnering with the innovators and thought leaders in the industry to bring to bear that future. This notion of autonomous shared transportation, shuttles and whatnot, right? We're testing a lot of these things in our headquarters campuses and other living lab environments that are here. The technology is here. The user acceptance, the regulatory acceptance, all these things will determine how quickly we usher in that wave. But I expect drones to become more pervasive, last mile delivery and logistics, automation with robotics and drone utilization. I expect micromobility services being a big part of our lives. But I also see private car markets and really different experiences, right? These are truly data centers on wheels or mobile living rooms of the future. And there's a lot we can do jointly to elevate the human experience. And I think a lot of what we're talking about that's been on PowerPoint slides today and in labs and sort of live proving grounds will be applied 5 years from today. So, full autonomy, maybe 10 years out.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And I like that line, elevate the human experience. And I know you're passionate about that, and we'll continue that work. And we look forward to being involved and to seeing what the future ends up looking like. But clearly it's bright. Clearly it is 5G. And there's a lot more to come. So thank you so much for your time, Arvin. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, David.